That's what it sounded like a few days ago at this Canadian medical clinic inside Ukraine, where local volunteers were singing a patriotic song. The video is from Dr. Daniel Kollek. He's a Canadian ER physician from Dundas, Ontario. And for the past 2 weeks, this clinic in the Krakovitz area, about 20 miles inside Ukraine, has been his temporary office. Kollek left his job at a hospital to volunteer with the charity Canadian Medical Assistance Teams, and every night he drives back and forth to one of 2 clinics from his hotel based in Poland and does a 12-hour night shift, where he and a team of about 15 Canadian nurses and paramedics treat exhausted Ukrainian refugees who arrive on buses en route west to safety in Poland and beyond. Kollek is Jewish. His parents and extended family have Holocaust memories, and so seeing the humanitarian crisis makes it impossible for him not to think about the parallels in history.
One lady brought a bag of apples because she didn't know she was going to get to eat on the way. So she had a bag of apples, right? So it is between that and going to the reception center in Poland, seeing how they were collecting people, it is hard not to be moved to tears.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Tuesday, March 29th, 2022. Welcome to the CJN Daily, sponsored by Metropia. Daniel Kollek is 64 years old. He isn't getting paid for the 2 weeks he's been at the Polish-Ukrainian border, but he left behind his job at a Burlington hospital so he could walk the walk himself, to be a frontline doctor, the way he's been teaching others to do all these years. The charity he volunteers for put out a call for doctors to set up clinics near border crossings that have been flooded with Ukrainian refugees. Many of them arrive after hours and days and long journeys without medicine or access to doctors. Coming up, Dr. Kollek will be here to tell us what he's seen and why he took time out to say prayers at the site of the nearby Belzec death camp, where 600,000 Polish Jews were murdered. But first, here's what's making news elsewhere in Canada right now.
I am Shirley Hannick. I'm from Toronto, Canada, but currently in Florida, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like.
The family of a missing British Columbia man is marking nearly a year since his disappearance. Bernard Grempel was last seen in Surrey, BC, in May. His sister and her family have been searching for him, together with teams of volunteers, and they have not given up. They've now raised the reward for information leading to finding the 29-year-old from $10,000 to $30,000. The RCMP and others say Bernie took the SkyTrain from Surrey and he got off somewhere en route to his parents' house. And despite at least 100 tips that have come in when people say they saw him, none of these has panned out. There's a GoFundMe page to help his sister Eddie Shurak post flyers around the Vancouver area. The link to find out more is in our show notes. And Dr. Daniel Kollek joins me now from the charity's base near Tomaso on the Poland-Ukraine border. Why did you decide, you personally, to go here?
There are a whole load of factors. I mean, one is that I have been teaching disaster preparedness and studying it for years and years. And I've always focused on the hospital side of the equation, of the receiving side, but I've never gone out to the field. So this was the opportunity. And it's interesting and it's fascinating and it's exciting. And you get to meet people who are unbelievable. Both the people who came with us and the people who are here it is amazing how good these people are. And then the other part of it is that you can't really complain about people doing nothing if you're not willing to get off your rear end and do it yourself. So I figured, I should not complain. I should just get up and go.
Is this your first disaster? If you said away, but you never dealt with mass casualties and stuff like this in Canada before?
No, I've dealt with a few smaller things. My first disaster was in high school, because I did my high school in Israel and I was working with Magen David Adom, that is the Israeli paramedic pre-hospital service. And I was about a block and a half away at the Zion Square bombing, and I was about 16 years old, 16, 17, I have to do the math. It's in hindsight that you make these connections, right? But from that point on, it just you realize the need and you realize how much is involved, and I just seem to have stuck to that.
All right. So, what kinds of things are you seeing in terms of the patients who are coming through?
The vast majority of patients I'm seeing are primary care issues. It is patients who've been on buses for 30 hours and who are exhausted and who are dizzy and who ran and didn't take their medication, so their blood pressure is out of control. Occasionally, they will complain of something like chest pain, bowel issues, stuff that is, none of it is, or typically very little of it is dramatic medicine, but it's a serious need because from their viewpoint, war or no war, they need their blood pressure medication. We've had people who needed dressing changes, not necessarily because, one of them was because of a shrapnel wound, but some of them were just because they have chronic lesions on, older people, lesions on their feet. And 2-3 days, you need to get those dressings changed. So, it's sort of a hodgepodge. And certainly some with sort of somatic manifestations of anxiety where they're there with a headache, but you need to talk to them a little bit, which gets challenging through an interpreter. I cannot think of the number of times I've told people that their blood pressure is a little bit up from normal, and they say, that's not normal. And I said that this situation is not normal. So this is okay. It's not, there's a bit of that.
And then you don't have any like surgical places. It's just sort of walk-in clinic type stuff, right?
On that side on the Ukrainian side of the border where we were, a large number of people are coming by buses. So the buses pull up and they unload a whole load of people with their luggage, which is whatever they can carry. When there are no buses, there's nothing for us to do. And then suddenly there are 2-3 buses, and there's this large ramp that they walk up, which takes them into the tent. The tent is there. The ramp is a bit sheltered, but the tent is really there to provide them warmth and food and drink. There's spots for them to charge their mobile phones, which is critical. And so we set ourselves up there in a small space with a clinic that initially was some stacks of fruit boxes, because that's what they had, which became our pharmacy, a mattress with a blanket behind it between the edge of the fruit boxes and the outside part of the tent. So it's a bit sheltered. That was our inpatients. A desk and a chair in front of that, which was where we started collecting, patients and doing our histories, registering them, and so on. And over time, once we defined what we needed, we started bringing stuff over and putting up some shelves and putting up some signage and getting heaters, because it was at that point incredibly cold at night. And we put ourselves purposely in the stream of people coming into the tent because we wanted to be able to scan the crowd. Particularly people coming in carrying small kids or something like that. It's cold out there. A small kid will get hypothermic really, really fast. I want to eyeball that child as they're going by. One woman came in with a small package that wasn't moving, and we got really scared till we realized there was a tiny cat. So everyone.
All right, and so, as being Jewish and being Israeli, have you shared that with any of the people who have come in and said, and have you found any Jewish refugees at all? Or does that not come up?
It does come up. There's a group called, I think it's called Bechesed, that are on the Polish side. And they certainly have been helping receive Jews. Not only, they're part of the stream and they'll help anybody, but if you have needs related to being Jewish, then they're there for that. I didn't have that conversation with the refugees, also considering that everything is through a translator. It just wouldn't have flowed. But what's interesting is amongst the tents that have been set up, because a lot of groups came by to set up supporting tents, there's the Messianic Jewish community from Lviv, who are wonderful. And let me give you an example. We needed interpreters. Our rate limiting step was interpretation. I can see a lot of patients quickly, but I can't if I can't talk to them. And then I have to get registered. And the person who's doing the registration can't talk to them. or it's very limited. So, and Google Translate will never keep up with the pace we need. So we needed translators. So this woman shows up with a friend. She's from the tent across the way. She heard the Canadians were here. You need translators. Yeah, I'm here. I'll translate. She's from the Jewish community of Lviv.
Did you say they were the Messianic Jewish community of Lviv?
Correct. This is a Jewish congregation that believes in the Old Testament and the New Testament. We had a brief discussion about that. It was a non-issue to them. They don't care that I'm Jewish or not Jewish. They care that people need help. It's at that level of humanity that everything else pales by comparison.
Your background being, with spending a lot of time in Israel with Israeli heritage, and now you obviously know about the Holocaust, and you see this kind of mass movement of people from refugees. What that layer of knowledge that some Jewish people have about this region, how does that, if at all, come into your mind when you're there?
It's impossible for someone who knows about that part of history to not make the connections. Putting aside the similarity of Putin's campaign, comparing it to Hitler's campaign in 38, 39, you see these people who are just coming carrying whatever they've got. And I mean, there are people who come from wealthy environments, and you'll see one woman came through with a long coat and with a Calvin Klein rolling suitcase with a travel pillow wrapped around it. And the next bus is people from Mariupol who had these little wire shopping carts and shopping bags, and that's what they had. It happens that Herbena is within 15-minute drive of Belzec, which was a concentration camp. And our driver today, because I saw the sign and I saw it was a train station, and it doesn't take too much to put two and two together about the trains and the camps. So I asked our driver, who is neither Jewish nor from this region, and he immediately said, yes, I know exactly where it is, and there's a memorial. And I was working last night, so at the end of last night shift, he picked me up and he drove me. I said, do you mind taking a few minutes? I would like to go. Didn't even think twice. He knew exactly where it was. He drove me to the memorial. That's where I was today. I went and prayed at the site of Belzec camp. So it is a generation or two generations away, but it's not gone. The connection is very real.
Did you say Kaddish, or what did you do?
I said Kaddish, and I said El Malel Rachamim. That's I travel with a small siddur and with a kippah, and just that's in my go bag, right? That's with my passport.
So as your deployment comes to the close and you come back to Canada, what's the next steps for you?
What's the next step? I think there will be a period of reflection. I've been keeping a diary because I don't want to forget what I've seen here. I'll go over it, and I'm going to rewrite it and just put it into something that I can look back on in years to come. And what I suspect is going to happen is I'm going to run into other people with different medical problems there, and it gives me a context where I think, yeah, I know it's a problem. I know you perceive it as a problem, or even for myself, when something happens, I think to myself, I don't have any problems. These people have problems. I've got an easy life. So I'm going to come back with a perspective that is, I think, a lot deeper than I had before.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily, sponsored by Metropia. Integrity, community, quality, and customer care. Today's listener shout-out goes to Marnie Mandel in Toronto. And we'll end the show with something for all you Mahjong fans. Stay tuned for a coming episode on the new cards that should be coming out right about now, and how the pandemic has changed how people play this iconic game.
I was playing Mahjong online with girls from both of the groups that I play with regularly. What we were doing up to that point was we were playing on a site called mahjong.net, which offered you 8 free games a day. But while we were doing that, we were also on WhatsApp or FaceTime so that we could sit and talk to each other at the same time. So we each had two devices beside us.